Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. If you follow the news daily, especially a few times a day, as some do, then you observe patterns and you understand the way propaganda is promoted and pushed on us. So sometimes you look at extraordinary headlines and say, oh my God, let's read the article. When you read the article, it's like, that's garbage. That's not what it was said in the title. So they're just baiting you in that. That's one. And the other one, you read a certain title and say, oh my God, let's read what's going on. And when you read, it's not really that. It's something else. It's either not that intensive as the title indicates, or it's really something else. Maybe the opposite. You have to learn how to read between the lines, especially if you are, how should I put it, following these things daily. Because you can't, like the car when it goes down the slope and all of a sudden, goes down, doesn't have the engine, is not running, and the whole 3 months, and then the next day, sometimes it goes the opposite direction, full speed. When did it turn around and got to go the full speed, This is the title. When you read it, actually, you realize it's not actually turned around and goes up the slope, up the hill, full speed. It can't. Not impossible, but very unlikely. So I think this article tells us one of those things, telling us this, and actually is this. It's how you look at things. If you know it was going down, all of a sudden is back on the top of the mountain in one day, it's kind of impossible. So let me show you this article coming from Ukrainska Pravda. And they tell us, the Ukrainians tell us, the article from today, the 9th of November 2023. Russians attack unsuccessfully on 7 fronts. 55 combat clashes at front during the day. So the Russians somehow, they attack on 7 fronts, 55 combat clashes, boom, 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 at the front during the day. They're all unsuccessful. Do you think it's possible? Possible. Now, is it likely? Is it probable? I think that thing with Russian attack, you should erase the unsuccessfully. Russians attack on 7 fronts. And then you say, hey, wait a minute. Here the Russians advanced 3 feet, but we pushed them back or something. Let's see what the article has to say. This is a kind of like an overlook, a summary of whatever happened on the front today, like an update. The Russian occupying forces unsuccessfully tried to carry out assaults with the support of aviation on 7 fronts over the last day, and 55 combat clashes took place during the day. This is according to the General Staff of Armed Forces of Ukraine as of 6:00 p.m. on 9th of November. The operational situation in the east and south of Ukraine remains difficult. Remember, difficult and dynamic. These are the words they use when they get all right. So why? I've been reading this at least 4 times a day, every day for almost 2 years. So, all right, doesn't mean that necessarily this way here, but patterns. Details on the Volhynia and Polisia fronts. The operational situation has not changed significantly. There were no signs of the formation of offensive groups. Certain units of the armed forces of Belarus performed tasks in the area bordering Ukraine. So they're talking about, let me show you the map of Ukraine. They're talking about this part right here, the border with Belarus. This is Volhynia, Polisia, and then they're gonna go here in Bryansk, or Chernihiv, or Chernigov, Sumy, and then Kharkiv or Kharkov. That's how they usually roll. They say on the Sivershchinya and Slobozhanshchinya fronts, the Russians maintain a military presence in the border areas, conduct sabotage and intelligence activities, attack populated area from the territory of the Russian Federation, and increase the density of mine explosive barriers along the state border of Ukraine, about 20 settlements, and they say in Chernihiv Oblast, in Sumy Oblast, and in Kharkiv Oblast were subjected to artillery and mortar shelling by the Russians. So they say what's going on here, on this area right here, just a little bit of shelling from the Russians. Now we're going to go to Kharkiv right here, Kharkiv, Kharkov. We're going to go to Luhansk and then Donetsk, Zaporozhye and Kherson. And maybe they tell us something about Crimean Peninsula, but usually they don't. They end up with a little summary at the end. On the Kupiansk front, now this is one of the points where Russia is really advancing, and this is right here. Kupiansk is right here. This is Kupiansk. Ram pam pam here. And the Russians advance slowly. The Ukrainians conducted evacuation. They evacuate the population from this area. So that means the Russians are coming. So on the Kupiansk front, the Russians conducted unsuccessful assaults near Sinkivka in Kharkiv Oblast, where Ukrainian soldiers repelled 7 attacks. 7. They carried out airstrikes in Donetsk Oblast. About 10 settlements came under artillery and mortar fire. Now, on the Leman front. Now, Leman is Krasny Liman or Liman, because they have 2 Limans here. One Liman I know is right here, and another one goes down here, Krasny Liman. And then they're going to go to Bakhmut. Probably this one right here, because they go from north, they go to west, and then, northeast, and then east. Let me show you. With their summary. So go north, and then go northeast, and then go east, and then southeast, and then south. So right now they spoke about Kupiansk right here, and then they're going to go down here to Liman, and then they're going to go down to Bakhmut. So on the Leman front, the Russians conducted unsuccessful assaults in Luhansk Oblast. That's accurate, because this Liman is in Luhansk and the other Liman is in Kharkiv. The Russians carried out airstrikes in Donetsk Oblast, in Luhansk Oblast. About 10 settlements were affected by Russian artillery and mortar shelling. Among them are Makiivka, Nevsky, and Bilohorivka, Luhansk Oblast, and Donetsk Oblast. So what the Russians did, they did this area here. They're talking about this area. So below Slovyansk, I said it, Kupiansk. Below Kupiansk and down here. This is the area they're talking about, like this. And now we're going to go probably to Artemovsk or Bakhmut, if there's anything happening over there. Oh, it is. On the Bakhmut front, Ukrainian defenders repelled 7 Russian attacks in Donetsk Oblast. More than 20 settlements came under artillery and mortar fire in Donetsk Oblast. On the Avdiivka front, now this is where everything is bad. So here is Bakhmut right here, Artemovsk, by the Russians right here, where Wagner Group took the city. And then they go from here, they go down here to Artemovsk, where I already covered in a special video before this one, because it needed that piece of information, because this is already done. So in Avdiivka, the Russians, with the support of aviation, carried out assaults on Donetsk Oblast. Ukraine's defense forces repulsed 7 attacks there. About 15 settlements in Donetsk Oblast were hit by Russian artillery and mortar attacks. On the Marinka front, Marinka is south of Avdiivka, right here, right by Zaporozhye Oblast in a minute. So in Marinka front, the Russians, with the support of aviation, carried out 23 unsuccessful attacks in Donetsk Oblast. They carried out airstrikes, and 10 settlements in Donetsk Oblast came under the artillery and mortar fire of the Russians, in particular Paparaparakapakapakamaka. Now we go to Shakar's front. Shakar's front is from Marinka, this area right here. This is the area, and then we're going to go to Zaporozhye. So right now we're here in this area, Donetsk. On the Shakar's front, the Russians, with the support of aviation, each and every time the aviation carried out assaults in Donetsk Oblast, but to no avail. About 10 settlements, in particular Vuhledar, and Vuhledar is down, I'm going to show you where that is, in Donetsk Oblast, were hit by artillery and mortar attacks. Vuhledar is right here. Right here. The Russians call it Ugledar. but the Ukrainians call it Vuhledar. So as I said, this is where they were talking about now, and we're going to move to the massive Ukrainian counteroffensive here in Zaporozhye towards Melitopol and Bryansk that was dead from the very beginning. On the Zaporozhye front, the Russians conducted again unsuccessful assaults in Zaporozhye Oblast, where Ukrainian defenders repelled 4 attacks. No airstrikes, oh, they're right there. The Russians carried out airstrikes in Zaporozhye Oblast. More than 20 settlements in Zaporozhye Oblast were subjected to artillery and mortar shelling. On the Kherson front, did you hear anything about the Ukrainian counteroffensive? Neither did I. So this is what they were talking about. Now we're going to move to Kherson, right here, on top of the Crimean Peninsula. And it says here that in Kherson Oblast, a few cities over there, towns, and the city of Kherson were subjected to Russian artillery fire. At the same time, the defense forces of Ukraine continue to conduct an offensive operation on the Melitopol front and offensive assault actions on the Bakhmut front. All right, so they say that they are going here and towards Melitopol, supposedly, and in Bakhmut over here. All right, now we got that covered. Inflicting losses in manpower and equipment on the Russian troops and exhausting the Russians along the entire front line. During the day, the Air Force of the Defense Forces carried out 4 strikes on the areas where Russian personnel, weapons, and military equipment were concentrated. Rocket forces and artillery units hit 2 control points, 4 artillery pieces, and Russia's radio electronic intelligence station. Got that? Now, if you got that, now you know. Now you know this is the update coming from the Ukrainians. So the title was, right, of this article, well, as an update actually. Russians attack unsuccessfully on 7 fronts, 55 combat clashes at front during the day. What I take out of this, the Russians are on the offensive and the Ukrainians are on the defensive. They didn't say anything about anybody advancing, a little bit trying Ukrainians to hit with a shoulder hit in Zaporozhye, Melitopol, and Melitopol, Mariupol. What am I talking about? Melitopol. Mariupol was taken a long time ago. Actually in May 2022, when those guys came out. All right, so over there and in Bakhmut. All right, so here it is, my friends, an update, and nothing extraordinary. The Russians seem to have the offensive according to the Ukrainians. So probably if you listen to the Russians, they would say, of course, we're almost near Kiev. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.